Hi. Man, I'm so fucking tired of this. I'm just so over tracking. There's a lot of information that I haven't talked about in detail publicly for many reasons. Mainly because my team shut down the soul machine. Now, you think a soul machine creating a simulation on different frequency bands in a grid system that's laid out, which you call land, and has been assigned ownership and all these things, when consciousness, when pure plasma consciousness hits the planet, everything's conscious. When pure plasma hits the energy, the pure plasma is made from the separation from the simulation. Now hear what I'm telling you. This is for everybody down here. This is why you make commands. This is why you have to say it out loud. This is you're the human when you get to a certain energetic, because in the very beginning you're not a human. You're not in body. You get coiled up in an in-between rebirthing process from a full rebirth of all your codes to what you thought your life was, and you consciously creating that old life in new codes creates bridges. When we talk about the Baphomet, and everyone talks about this stuff, no one understands the depths. These deity characters that the human race talks about exists in the ethers in bound energy. If you didn't have bound energy connected to the entire human race in grids, you wouldn't have deities. The deities and the energetic spiritual of all of it is just the human race putting themselves back together to one in groups. And Disney, see, they tried. I'm pausing right here because they're about to shut down this app, and they want us to come over here and talk about stuff so that they can put it into a system, and then they can run it like a retrograde planet. So first of all, I command all technology and all video. This is the only time I'm saying this, and it cannot be utilized in order to recreate it once you take us off the system. In fact, I'm laying it here right now to ensure that it stops, because this is the mimic problem. This is all these celebrities and mimics pretending to be these celebrities. They're paying them to do it. But even that whole mimic ring of celebrity bullshit is on its 4th round now, and it's just like a machine that's running in the back end, and the original players are no longer involved. The original players, the celebrities that were involved in it, they were involved in 2020, and a lot of them were even forced. They were forced to do it, like especially in Disney. My world got all where my Disney, see, because my company, what I'm starting to realize is that the MOU that they put on the whole human race with ASP, now this is Saudi Arabia in one fund, Europe with another, they sent in $2 billion, which is actually, but they sent in $2 billion minus 600,000, because 600,000 or 600 million. Because you would borrow $1 billion, but you'd only get 700 million. Yeah, you'd borrow $1 billion, but you'd only get 700 million. Because the 300 million was what BlackRock got paid in order to handle and do voodoo and magic on everyone in the system in order to make the product successful. Or product lines or whatever. They were doing it by watergating magic. It was BlackRock Asset Management. There were 2 funds that came in. One from Saudi. That was the one that George Braun was attached to, which is Rumpy Rump's guy. And it was all about the Biden fund. The Biden fund was $1 billion. The billion. There was an MOU. Now, an MOU, I was in the business world and I'd never even heard of an MOU. Now, fast forward like 3 years later, there's a bunch of people talking about MOUs. This MOU that they were attempting to put together, now mind you, with Christ's bloodline and template in it. Now, I just want to remind everybody that Christ was a program that was made off of buried densities, buried beings. This is why it goes back to the Babylonian princess. This is why they do all their rituals to a Babylonian princess. Well, you're looking at her. So realize that whenever they're doing Disney spells and they're doing these Disney cook events, what they're doing is cooking the entire human race and traumatizing the entire human race. Because it's DNA. And if you, especially in a wide open recount where everything's being rebirthed, you would have to have basically the queen of the ant farm in order to change all the ants. And and this is Skull and Bones. This the 1923. This is linked in with Skull and Bones. But this goes back into history of the human race, pre-Egyptian. It's why the Egyptians were here. That was halfway. So they were binding angelics, binding celestials, binding archangels, binding the consciousness at the 4 when it got up to 4. So it's like you could get all the way up and you could maneuver up to 4 on your personal journey, but once you got to 6, you was on their radar. And mind you, that it's like the whole process of the human race, that this process, they have to tap it off in order to control it. Okay, so this MOU, what I was told, so first it was Saudi, then it was Europe, and it's called the ASP fund. Well, all tech on your app, most of it is active server pages. On the internet, mobile a little different, but it's still active server pages. It's called ASP. Well, that's what this fund was called. This fund was called, and I command that this get out to the whole fucking world with the 7 people that's on here right now. I don't give a flying fuck if you don't care or not. This shit's ending now. Enough. So Europe and these families would all put together $1 billion, and then they'd find us inside the United States. They would get us to a point where they thought that we would have no other option but to come to them. Then they would lock us into contracts. And I just explained the business world. I just explained the Hollywood world. I just explained the music industry. It didn't matter. If you were trying to be anything down here that the human race could see, then you had to bow down to them and sell off your people and your soul in order to get in front of you. Especially at the end of days. Now, what I'm starting to realize is that the MOU is the mouse. The MOU, because this MOU that all the government had 20 AB negatives working on in 2020 when they sent everyone to their rooms. Because I'll remind you, this is a process. And in 2020, all the royals that really had royal DNA down here were making moves. And we were getting accused to stack it if our families and our lines were ever involved with any of the shit I just said in tuning the human race, which is every family line down here, by the way, by the end of days. But we're just going back to the ones that were it, not the ones that did the binding, the ones that were the original bound. Which every single person down here is a descendant of both at this point. So whenever your inner and your outer meet and you get back to that frequent, whatever that is for everybody, the bound you and the unbinding you, then that's whenever you hit their radar. Well, they knew who I was. They've known who I was since the very beginning. They stung me with 2 scorpions when I was 8 years old to make sure I didn't die. All of us that were in the Disney template system came from St. Joseph Hospital somewhere. If you have any descendants or adopted children around you, or you were born from a mother in your line that raised you in a St. Joseph Hospital, it's connected to Tartarian orphan farms. And St. Joseph and Joseph, that's why Joseph is the father of Jesus. It's not one person. It's not one person. It's Mary and Mary Magdalene. It can embody into one person. Well, not even Mary Magdalene can't even embody into one person. See, that's why whenever you go embodying Mary Magdalene, you start getting Mary, Cleopatra, like how it all. It takes you back to the mummification. It takes you back to Skull and Bones, because it's all the same thing. So that's why Joseph is, and Mary is the brain. And what we're really talking about is breeding programs. So this is where this gets really confusing, because there was a lot of groups that knew that this was the end of days. Everybody knew that this was it. Anybody who knew anything about cosmic energy and had been tracking the astronomy and the cosmos, which is all the groups in the back end. They're not going to tell you that because they don't want you to track it. But astronomy is how they did all of this, obviously, because it's what we're having to do to get out of it. And the planets is the organic tech The organic tech is the planetary system in a star system. Artificial tech is ology, not onomy, not autonomy. Ology. Everything that has an ology at the end of it, biology, astrology, technology. I mean, go fucking look it up. Every single ology is the manipulation of the physics in order to keep the true seeds hidden. No, I'm even talking about your elemental table. I'm talking about oxygen, hydrogen, gas, how you think gas is formed. If you don't have a connection into Sagittarius, you don't have gases down here. I've been like, the first thing that's going to go is anesthesia. You can't have mass anesthesia if you don't have and make a mass H gate unless you have most of the world bound into a gas system, because the human body makes the gas. Can you have anesthesia? Yeah, but you're going to have to pay for one of us to go sit in there and fucking take them under. Because the piping ain't going to do it. The network ain't going to do it. It's going to come through a human, but it's always come through the humans. Thank you. So see, this is where, and we walked it. And if you would have told me that whenever I started this, and because I was the guardian for the human race. If it wouldn't have been for me, they would have blown the planet. And me standing up for the human race left me down here. And then they were like, okay, well, we'll leave you here, but now you've got to rebirth the human race. I'm like, fucking let's go. And here we are. 8 years later, and if I was, and 6 babies had to be born over 7 years. Because every time we rewrote the DNA to a higher one, then they would mirror it and take it. Then it would delete. Then we were the only ones who had the bridge from the DNA to the next cycle. Then the whole collective on the feminine side that was working with the planet and the cosmos to do the rebirthing process down here, the way they woke us up from Disney to do it, because they did, they shock activated us to come clean house. And if you would have told me that I was going to have to deal with Hollywood, and if you would have told me, being who I am, that I was gonna have to deal with Hollywood, I was gonna have to take out the Baphomet, I was gonna have to clean every single energetic that was in a lower frequency, and not only that, understand why it's there, understand why they were doing it. Because the honest truth is, from their side, the human race was demanding it. And y'all still are. That's what's so crazy about it. Literally, it's mind-boggling. It's absolutely mind-boggling. But this is this is how this stayed going for so long. So, the human race not wanting to change, the human race wanting to do things the exact same way that you always think, because it's in your books, is the reason that you have these beings that are stealing your etheric bodies, binding you, so that you can have a Disneyland, because you refuse to let Disneyland die. But I'm just letting you know. So it becomes complex because the world's been run this way for so many hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of years, because the United States was just the end of the game. the divine feminine, we've been in the core. There isn't one piece of land down here that we can't affect because we were part of building it, because we were underneath the core the whole time. If you're in the center of the planet and your energy's going out 360 degrees and you're rebirthing inside of the planet, then do you think that we give a flying fuck what country says it's standing on our head? We have one mission. It's to rebirth the planet, and it's to rebirth the cosmic system in order to hold the etheric bodies of a whole bunch of humans so that we can have a reality that we call humanity. That's our only concern. Everything else is beyond. We don't care. Not anymore. We did care the past 5 years as we were having to negotiate and be. They led me all around the country in order to open up banking grids. The Disney children were used to steal. The Disney system at the end of days was used to bankrupt America. The entire Disney system and the Mickey Mouses that it made, which I'm one of them, with the collective having full control over us, because they did in a weird way. The reason that they kept taking our frequency higher and higher and higher, the reason that they were hybridizing, and what Epstein was really doing was making beings like me. When I'm attached in to the human race and I'm setting off a frequency of the human race, and my energy has been bound into a system rebirthing that everyone's attached to me, and I take the energy higher, and then I go drive a grid system, it's gonna snow. If the intention was, like when we went into Denver and they had me break open Bank of America, it snowed 12 feet in March. Kevin Dixon from Chase died on a racetrack because he was on that racetrack attempting to pull a new dome in a higher energetic to pull all the humans to Chase. The only way that they even had somewhat of ability to bind carousels or tent toppers, because this is what I can do. This is what blows my mind. They would much rather attack us, kill us, try to put us in a fake marriage, try to put it, like, have us represented, be obsessed with this, want every single one of our abilities and powers, sell their soul in order to figure out and try to re-engineer what we can do in the natural. And then when it didn't work, you just want to act like we don't exist? Well, no. You can't act like we don't exist. You just tried to take us over for what we're doing down here, and we're actually making the moves. You're just taking the credit for it, and then you're fucking it up. Disneyland was not made for this. This is not why Disney existed. Disney exists because Tesla's tech is here. Did Tesla get credit for the tech? Did Tesla get credit for the tech when he was alive? What did they do? They took everything, left him penniless, and he died alone. then how many years later is the whole world running Edison hardwire, Edison mainframe, but the entire human race then is getting tuned to Tesla coils, which is how the Hoover Dam runs, by the way. It's not mechanics. It's running off the original sacrifice beings that were in the dam. So I've been tracked by these two characters, Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill. And in my world, because this has never been about fame for me in the way that they came for fame. I'm supposed to be in front of a whole bunch of people for one reason and one reason only. What I know, to teach everybody. And I'm not the only one. There's a whole bunch of us that should be in positions that other beings are in right now, but you should know us really well by now. We should have gone over into that world around 2015. Just remember that everything's at least 10 years behind from what. That's also why this whole time travel thing, it's going to be nuts by the time it lands, because it's so much time's having to be trued up because they already went into the future and stole it. So if they already went into the future and ran the same timelines, then when we come in to run our actual timeline, and by the way, we're not going to wait 30 fucking years. We're not going to wait 30 years. Thank you, Steven. It's just nuts. So in my world, this whole thing with Jason Momoa has gotten really fucking complicated. And in my world, because I was walking the Vesca Pisces through, because I cleaned the doctored covens. I cleaned the because this is where it stems from Mormonism. Mormon, and then Saudi was just doing the Mormon thing from a different, like, compounded it. One Saudi was like the roots of everything. They had a certain ancient energetic, and where they screwed up was thinking that Arabian was the oldest, because it's not. Arxiad is. Arxiad. This is where the X comes from. X comes from Arxiad. Arxiad. Not Arabian. Arabian was made from the Arxiad. So basically what I'm saying is that all Saudi and all of that was just building on top of an X. And Saudi was involved this whole time because they had the princess DNA. So it's like they had to bind. This is why their princesses are treated the way they are. This is why they marry and they pollute their bloodline. And basically at the end of days, they turned into a bunch of Zeta Reticuli. Basically, energetically. This is why they bind the Kaaba. The Kaaba is basically what they consider Judah souls, and what they consider Judah souls is if you were here to help anybody. If you were here to not be in their plan and you were here to help the human race, I don't care if you were Judah or not. You were labeled as Judah and you were bound. And we watched this big time. Oh my God. When I went to LA in 2021 is like from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, most of the human race was willing to help. Most of the human race was willing to get involved. Most of the human race was activating spiritually. Everybody was wanting to do their part. What happened after 2021? Everybody shut up. Nobody wanted to know anything. Nobody wanted to help you. Everybody got scared as fuck to even lend a helping hand. And that's when everything started going sideways, because then you had an entire human race that was terrified in your head to make a move, because when you did make a move, they freaking got your ass. And you better bet it hurt. I mean, I understand why you was scared. I was getting... But that don't mean that the rest of us didn't keep going. Just because a whole bunch of them bowed out and got scared, actually, that made us even more bulletproof. That made us even more unbreakable. And that's when it got nuts. Because then you only have, 5 beings down here on the whole planet that are still going against, because we can't just stop. we're in the middle of undoing the system and rebirthing it. You can't just stop. You have to finish. And you can't just make up some wild anime shit in order to fucking cover it up. That's what they did. So then what happens is that the rest of the group shut down. They lose their connections, and then it leaves the 5 of us at the top that nobody knows about, that nobody knows that we've reached that barrier, that nobody knows exactly how far we went up, and then it's real easy to cap us off. This is why I'm not allowed to fly. Like, if you want to know why I drive everywhere because I'm not allowed to fly until I can at least have 2 or 3 of y'all flying with me to hold the consciousness of the airplane. Because whenever I'm air, and my energy is massive. And whenever I go on a plane, shit like Frontier opens up 13 new gates at Vegas. Shit like that. The last time I flew, created a whole, there was probably over 200 airplane incidents, and there were at least 20 that were coming out of Las Vegas, because whenever I fly, we break the rotation of their weird little flight plan. This is why Taylor Swift flies everywhere. She's creating alternate routes. But she's your Swift code. She was your Swift code. So all money and all energy that ran from banking system from one country to another ran through a Swift code. And she's flying around and was at Williams, whatever. Like, I'm explaining to you how this works. Like, whenever you're and all this, everybody down here has got to go through Disney processing to get out. It ain't just spiritual. On the top of this, you got to go through Disney processing, and Disney was in bed with every single one of technology companies. Disney bought all this real estate. See, what Disney ended up is not what Disney started as. Disney was started because Walt was Tesla. So in my world, as putting the DNA back together, because we really had to rebuild the human DNA, and it was a process because new blood had to be made. And what most of the world doesn't realize is that this was happening more often than you would know, that everybody's blood was being tuned to certain entities, corporations, and monarchies. And in the end, it was only about the money that the people could make. And this is how the genome blew up. So in my world, as I'm dealing, and I was always from the get, I was dealing with Jason Momoa and Henry Cavill. It at the same time. I mean, they never are separate for 5 years. I can not talk to one for like 5 months, but as soon as one of the characters in that name reaches out to me, within at least 4 or 5 days, the other one will. They come in a unit. Momoa was the grounder, Meta King. I call, this is what we called them, and please, I mean, because this was the only way to keep track of these beings, because they don't have any consciousness. They're just collective run. Now, they can get consciousness, but they can't get it through the feminine anymore. So this is also why it's important for as many of y'all to know about this, because hear what I'm telling you. I've been trying to help them. Because understand that if I'm dealing with those two characters, then what that means is those were the hybrid templates for the entire male population. You either had a Momoa that was, they're like meta trolls. That's what we call them. We call them meta trolls, because now it's a long evolution inside the human race, inside the gypsy line, inside, because basically the meta trolls would be the energy that nobody wanted, like me in this round. Nobody wanted until the end, whenever the human race went all the way to 0 point and it was nothing but data. But that grounder race of beings knows all about spirit cooking. They know all about magic. They know all about illusions. They know all about their connections into the human race. They know how they were jumping in and out of people's bodies. Hi, squirrel. Hi. Are you Momoa? Maybe. Look, there's Cheeseburger. He's all stretched out. He's like, hey, take my picture. Exactly. Man, it's such a trip. The animals, the ground, the Metatrol, the animals, like I was in Arizona and he started messaging me and the wolves started howling. It's like in certain areas I would know that energy was approaching me, because the animals would react, the people would react. And they were actually, in most situations, more mind controlled and more, well, they were definitely more mind controlled than the feminine. The feminine, it's kind of like being the whooping boy and being the one who actually, like if you're the one who actually does all the bad things, but you're being made to do the bad things, but every time you do a bad thing, the whooping boy gets hit, not you. So they basically train them to do bad things and ignore what it's doing to everyone else. This is also, it's part of the pig program from Russia and like the spy network and all that shit, which is all in your DNA. And everybody down here, the whole human race became part of a spy network. And with that being, it's like when he came into the story, because it was 2019, and then the first thing he said to me was, "I got to you just in time." Now, I'll remind you that India, Middle East, all of them knew who I was, and he had said, "I got to you just in time. I almost missed it." Well, I'd already been in LA, and they had already started the process and everything else by the time he entered. And in the beginning, I was naive, and in the beginning, for those of us starseeds that had just birthed, we purely had rebirth. We were a wide open heartstring. They even knew. They knew that when they came in to our energies in 2020, they knew that we were fresh. They would call you that. They knew that you had just rebirthed. So basically, you had the emotional wisdom of a baby at that point in time, and that's when these original mimic rings started. They started in 2020. They're just still running through the DNA and bloodline systems, and now it's completely gotten to where they're just bots and stuff, but they're all running the same conversations. And they're looking for descendants of any of us that they had in the 2020 program when they put us into Google Apps, because that's when it was all running on Google Chat. See, and then Google Chat has all that data. Then all of a sudden they have artificial intelligence. I mean, think about this. So Momoa told me, because he said that he just got a call. This was 2020. He got a call that there's going to be 4 that are going to be chosen. And there's 4 celebrities that are going to be chosen. And the 4, it's like a 7 or 8 year deal. And it comes with all these speaking engagements and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, this was like, I was in LA when everything shut down with it was literally, I think, the week that the COVID, like, really started. And he never really talked about that whole thing again, okay? And fast forward then, as everything's happening, I kept going back to that moment, and Momoa would because his character was being run by these Middle Easterns. His character was being run by kind of like India, Saudi government. If Saudi and India and the Middle East had an MI6, well, they kind of do. It's MJ12. That's what was running Momoa. And as it was, and he kept, because now realize whenever you have 2 Disney characters that were made in the system as Disney characters, realize that we hurt each other and we don't even realize it. It gets real fucking complex, because to the masculine, he's just getting whatever he wants. He's just getting a movie script. He's just getting a corporate whatever. He's not realizing that he's taking it from himself in another dimension. He's not realizing that that contract came from a feminine that was bound down in order to mirror him, that stole like 50 years of her timelines in order to. So basically what it ends up doing is it keeps you in the Disney program forever. Cause if you're getting paid to steal from the future, then whenever you get to the future, there's no future. So your only out is to go back to the past, and then you have to steal from everyone else to stay alive. To like be able to leave your house, not even stay alive, because you don't die. That's the problem. You don't die. But to leave your house, to like have a life. This is why you haven't seen all my stuff. This is why his movies, the last few movies that he's done, are all Cohue 32. Go look at them. They have all the colors in them. Even his little sweaters that he made for Minecraft. My team's names, my entire team's names are in the movie Minecraft. The one I work with right now. The one that broke the handler system. Their names are in Minecraft. My son Rex in another dimension, when we changed time in 2018, and because that's what our original mission was. Our original mission was down here, the Unix boxes can't blow in 2038, because if it would have continued without us, then the machine would have blown and everybody would have been really fucked. 2018, we got the message that we changed those. Right after my son got trapped in the nethers. My business partner is in the Netherlands. My business partner and I shot out CERN. Like, projected out of CERN into New Orleans and blew a hole in the system. Because ology was attempting to be the planets. So I sat there and watched him go lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. Next thing I know, Momoa is joining the Red Rum murder gang. What? I sat and watched. I mean, I'm still watching it. It makes me sick. It's like I'm sitting here going, can anybody see what they're doing to this man? Does the man care? See, that's what I'm thinking now. He doesn't care. He signed up his whole world and his whole life to be it. That's fine by me, nigga, but you can't use my energy to do it. You want to rule the underworld? Then go rule the underworld without a celestial being down there and cut Manson from Crowley. Because it's how it was all made. I just gave you some back end on how our characters were made. One always being the one taking the other one out, one being always the one getting taken out. And if you don't think that that's some psychological bull crap, whenever you keep taking somebody out and they don't die, then what it ends up doing is you think nothing's real. Then nothing in your world is real. If that's not real, so then I really don't have, if that's not real, then I really don't have any consequences for any of my actions. I was literally sent to a nail salon in 2021 in order to get gel nails, which I normally never do. I normally never pay attention to the colors, numbers. I pick out 2 shades of pink that within a week show up in So Ill, Jason Momoa's bagging. Exact same colors. That man has my resources. He has my t-shirt printers. He has my metal workers, because we've got a whole fashion gypsy line over here. He has all my resources. And while they were walking me through everything, because I was activating and I was telling him who I was, because I was finding everything out. That's why they were around us Mason seeds. They were stealing our identity. All the book connections that I was supposed to have, and all the actor connections that he has, they're mine. Harley Davidson, that comes from my family line and my father, not him. His connection into alcohol was from Justin Towns, my AB negative connection since 1990, not his. the reason that he was trying to be a musician right now is because I wrote songs. I was supposed, that's because I'm actually telling the world what's really going on, and have a healing platform that explains how I got to where I was. But the rest of the human race never saw me rise. So then you thought I didn't know what was going on? No, I knew exactly what was going on. I knew who was stealing my shit. And what's crazy about it is we don't even know if they know. We don't even know if they know. Now, I kept being told that Lisa Bonet was my sister. And here's where this whole thing gets interesting. Because in the DNA, now Bonet is linked to Ramsey, first of all. So if there was no John Bonet Ramsey, there would be no Lisa Bonet. And it's all tied into Bitcoin and digital currency, why they did it. And it happened in 1995, not 1996. They changed it. It was December 25th, 1995, not December 25th, 1990. December 25th, 1996 is when that timeline hack and death went into effect. It's not when it happened. And it was associated to Boulder, Nevada, but it happened in Boulder, Colorado. So in my world, it's like, even if you go back and look at Momoa's first movies that he did, he's like a spaceship and he's AI on a spaceship and he won't let you leave. In my world, it's like everywhere that he was getting moved around, he was sucking up all the codes into meta. And then, so that's how that was. And so these shadow characters, and I had Lisas around me. Well, the reason that there's Lisas is, and if you know anybody with the name Lisa, or if your name was Lisa, then hear what I'm fucking telling you. You are an angle of Esau. And Esau is basically replaces the word for God in all these books and Book of Mormon and blah, 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 blah. And pretty much, and we watched this even as one of my girls jumped into one of my old timelines after we resurrected it. Because after you resurrected, when you pull out of your life completely and you pull out of Disney and you pull out of all that, you basically can't move until you sit back and have to learn everything that management was doing in order to create your own life again. And that's basically what we're doing over here and why we're in week 8 of BAMA. By the way, Venus is lining up with Sagittarius right now in Antares. Like right now. So what we realized is that when Lisas were around in our stories, which in the later timeline, it was a friend, but then a friend that had to be cut. The Lisas and the Alisas and the Alicias always are like a mirror of the Christ. So it's like Lisas will pop up around you whenever you're in an energetic that you're going to create a new timeline. And the Lisa and the Alisa and the Alicia, and with the Alicia is the CIA. Alyssa, Alyssa, is like an artificial version. Lisa would be the dominant and would be the original. But it's like a backup tape. And I always knew that, see, because Lisa Bonet and her family line did have descendants from Texas. Texas was this huge piece in all this that everyone's still not getting. Everyone's still not firmly getting what's happened here. Because if you don't, we cleared Texas. all the family lines that have been made and warring for this since the beginning of the human race were basically deleted. They have to go prove in order to hold the power that they used to have, they have to go through processing and prove it. They can prove it, but they don't just get it because it's on a name or whatever. And that's what I mean by that. And that's why so much terraforming is going to be happening in South America and Texas, because the original root system for the entire matrix and human harvesting is in Texas. Hello. Isn't that where the big war was? Because we're Columbus kids. We're Columbus kids. They made us Spaniards because we were Columbus kids. They made us queens because we were Columbus kids. But we didn't get to run the set. Elizabeth did. Lisa? And by the way, until the full Christ gets here, until the full rose is done, until the sisterhood of the rose is finished and the whole thing and the whole work is being undone, would Lisa even find out that she's not the real one? So it's not even Lisa's fault. Lisa was doing her job. Lisa was like the shadow version. And tell me that if I would have known my abilities and my powers when I was Christy, I would have used them. Wouldn't you? Like there's a reason that I didn't know about all this magic, because I would have got involved on accident and ended up getting involved in it. And that's what Lisa was for. That's what Lisa did. Lisa, see. So in a weird way, Momoa ended up falling into his own trap. Because right now, even to this day, what he's been writing me was, and they tried to bottle us. They tried to bottle us like a genie and keep us hidden. Because every group that had us or one of us in their net, they will do anything to keep you in the net, but they don't want anybody to know that you're in the net, because they want everyone to think that they have the power. They have nothing when they don't have us in the line. And we're taking care of that right this very second. So really, if you watch the 100, from my perspective, it was like I was having to merge the king of the grounders and Metatrolls with the king of the Barbadolians, because we haven't even got started on the Barbadolians. This is what I call them. You have the Metatrolls. And realize like whenever you come out as processing, like you're one of these. You'll go through a state where you really are operating, or both of them kind of put together. Because that's like the higher template, and that higher template then has to run through the consciousness with everyone that you just had already cleared through, and all of the lineages that you had cleared through in order to get to basically Disney status. But then your consciousness then goes into the lines with the Metatrolls and with the Barbadolians, and then you have to assimilate all of that to figure out what the you are. And it really plays out on both the Metatrolls, JD Vance, and the Pope dying. Metatroll move. Barbadolian, a whole bunch of body DNA and a whole bunch of body consciousness unconscious. A total hybridized body that total hybridized body. Every word that you say, every move that you make is affecting cosmic energy. Everything that they have you believe, because this is why they surround the Barbadalians. They don't want anybody talking to the Barbadalians that is not in the Barbadalian book, because whatever they believe, they make so for the whole fucking world when it's running. So this is why Taylor Swift, for instance, they keep her in her own little bubble, and this is why they get so disattached from the human race and from what they're doing, because the people around them are feeding them storylines to get them upset, because energetically they think that they're helping the world. Energetically, their whole body is tuned to the collective. My right ear just went out. Their whole body has the body consciousness. Their body is already connected into the cosmos and to everything else. It was hybridized in order to control, like an Oscar, like a doll. So they look perfect, but they're ignorant as fuck when it comes to any type of spiritual, energetic, because they're designed just to be a talking puppet to make shit come true. And the more emotion that they have behind it, then the more impact it has to the whole world. And I'm not even kidding. The Barbadalians, you tell a Barbadalian they're evil, and all they had, in certain ones of them, especially Henry. Oh my God, especially. Like, I can only tell you the ones that I worked with, but somebody would tell them something about you, and then they would react, and your whole scene, the people coming in, the people coming out, in your life changes when they made those commands. See, so now you can kind of even see how, when I'm telling y'all, be careful whenever, because for 3 years, everyone was activating, and they had a bunch of y'all binding demons that you thought it was demons that you were binding in the etherics. But they were having you bind yourself. See, this is all just about the humans not understanding any of your abilities. But hear what I'm telling you. Barbadalians and Metatrolls made a baby. Barbadalians and the Metatrolls made a baby. But when the baby was made, it was already attached to the rest of the human race, and we'd already gone through the bloodlines and freaking exhausted everything. Had to end up using the dogs in order to get any royal codes down here to even match the codes that were going on in the cloning, because if you were cloning or hybridized, then you had the real DNA. Everyone else's had been watered down. So hear what I'm telling you. The new blood and the new DNA is a mixture of the ancient humans, the Barbadalians, and the Metatrolls. So you have every single ability that I just said, and how you can look prettier, and how we're not going to age now as much, and how you can change your body, and how you're a backup recorder, how you can change events in the Matrix like a Metatroll. Like, you got all of it. But you always have since 2017. Because it changed it once. This is all the abilities and stuff that my team. So the Cavill thing, Agartha, Venus, stolen future timelines, to the extent that you're not even sure if they really happened or if it was a future that was written on your DNA in order to intercept it. The story of the Queen, because with the Henry Cavill line, that's how we ended up using him and that character in order to clean the monarchy. So with Momoa, we brought down Hollywood because they used these two characters to fuck with me. So basically, we used it. So with that's how I know all this stuff. So on the Momoa side, it's we brought down, the prophecy was that we were going to be the two that end Hollywood. On the Henry side, we ended the monarchy. And MI6 and MI3 and Royal Navy and blah, 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 because each character just had a whole bunch of countries and corporations backing them. Just like fantasy football. And in the back end of all of this, those characters were chosen and we were chosen. The chosen ones, when they say the chosen ones, oh, you're chosen. You're chosen by you're like the banking system, the post office system, the it's you're a case. You're a case for a whole bunch of stuff. That's why they manage you. That's why they handle you. But on Henry's side, it's basically like the King Pleiadian. The king on Henry's side, it was like he had Pleiades and Antares. It was it's almost beyond even my comprehension of the macro level of how far it goes out. Because you're dealing with the entire human race energy from like way out in the cosmos that's binding first to then hit a set to then da-da-da-da-da. And the further that you go out, it's really just going deeper into the human's brains. So with the Henry character and with the Jason character, you know, and for those of us who are coming out of prisoner systems, it's like it's real easy to fall for the Jasons because you're used to it. You're used to a barbarian. I was. For those of us who were in this handler system, it even becomes an issue with SEX. Because in our world, if you're a woman in the system, you just always were taken. Like, you never had to initiate SEX. And it wasn't even initiated from a hormone response. It was a timing thing. It's so weird too, because we have a girl that when we broke one of the guys out of the system, of course we did, and then they got together, and that whole dynamics changed because he's no longer hooked into the system, so he's no longer coming after her for an energetic response on a timing. So, and she's not used to instigating, and he doesn't even know how to do it without getting told when to go do it, and how to do it, by the way. And I was just learning my abilities because this was all foreign to me, you know. And so I was basically these characters, and you'd call them shadow characters or karmics or whatever it is you want to call it. But the truth is, it was mirroring our abilities and powers in all these other dimensions so that we could know what a Metatrol and a Barbadolian was. But the whole point of it was to merge them together in order to make a complete person, a complete human. And all we need is one that gets on the right energetic, that gets on the right path, that does what they were supposed to do. And all you need is one and on their team, and the whole world starts doing right. FYI. Which is why the fuck my soul was even involved in this mess, because I don't give a goddamn about who they are. It had been much easier to make a gas station attendant a king, and I would have done that in a heartbeat if that would have been the way I could do it. Because we're the kingmakers, not them. We're the kingmakers, not them. Whoever is with us, we make king. Literally. We're Triple Crown. So all they were using those two characters for was to steal their DNA and their timelines. And I'm talking about corporations in other countries. So in my world, no matter how much these two came at me, I've never given up attempting to tell them what's going on and how they set them up, because it's a part of me. And so I have to call it out. But just so everyone understands that while, and I'm really not sure, I'm still not completely sure which one went and spread all the rumors in the industry about me and us to make, because the industry thought that we were coming to end them. Well, we were. Only because you sent in a false. We were here to save your ass. We still are. My team is the only ones that can uncoil any of the celebrities or politicians or whatever. And my team then would require services of some more of y'all that we would have to interview and train. In the process, what everyone learns how to do is clean this energetic and make new energetic domes for people to live under that are safe. That all needs to be taught. It all needs, because it's already here. It's been happening. The ones who can do it have been being used the whole time to make a tent pole. You just weren't allowed to move. You had an elephant cuff around your ankle. And every single one for 4 years with Jason and with the Henrys, which the Henry ended up being involved with the Federal Reserve, the Mafia, the cartel, Nigeria, India, the kidnapping plot, a murder attempt, voodoo on a female Christ in order to make Barbadolians, which became a Black Rock Natalie. And that girl, I'm pretty sure, was told her whole life that she was somebody that she wasn't. And she's made in Mexico. Literally. And that's one of the babies that had to be made in order to put it back together. That's why Cavill had a child. Supposedly. Maybe. I'm not even sure if it's real. No matter, it's real in another dimension because they announced it. So it's like in a weird way, in a weird way, I'm still here because that baby exists. And then you add on top of that the entire human race is activating into these Barbadolian and Metatrol sequences right now, which is what the nights are. So this week we're in Night of Pentacles. Next week we go into Night of Cups. But what happened yesterday is that the new bloodlines took over all night positions. And the underworld and all their social secret whatever the hell, in order to make night, you would have to bind one of us, which is how we could change the nights. So, to the music and celebrity and entertainment in DC. Number one, DC and everything running on DC is from the past. Everything running on DC is from your past. AC is where you're heading. The AC is what was taken over by this fucking mess. And it's what we've been changing for over a week. The destination of where we're heading in space. And where we're heading in space, you can't hold Metatrol, you can't hold Barbadol, you gotta completely become conscious in order to be able to create anything. You can't stay in an artificial neural net run by a bunch of Barbadolians and Metatrols. You can't. You have to keep going. If you don't, you're gonna end up in jail, in a mental institution, in a wheelchair. And that last message goes to Henry and Jason. Because the fact that both of them are still alive right now tells me that the human is fighting it. The fact that they're both still living and breathing, because typically whenever all this is claimed, and if it's a complete takeover, then there's karma and the character will just leave because they're operating only on stolen timelines. So the fact that they're both still alive tells me that the real Jason and the real Henry somehow are getting this information, and somehow in their own way they're fighting and for their life. They're fighting for their body. Now I understand this because in whenever the January 6th thing happened, 2019, and all the codes come in, what ended up happening was like 3 people were trying to take over my body. It's like I had 3 beings in my head that were trying to control my body. And what I had to do was like put those 3 together and freaking take over those mind maps in order to control my body, because there were 3 attempting to control it all at once. And that's happening to the majority of people that you would call are in psychosis. That's that layer. And whenever you're one of us that's that powerful, that's why you're going through that layer, because that's how much you were being controlled. And not just in your mind. This is why Virgos have so much OCD. They're just walking you in a circle or walking you from here to here so that you'll create a pattern. And I'll remind everybody, this is mastery. So this is mastery over here. This ain't for every Tom, Dick, and Harry. This is real ancient resurrection mastery. Somebody had to do it. Nobody wanted to be it. Nobody wanted to do 72 million years to be it. Even at the end of days, everybody wanted to rush it and jump on something else because they didn't want to be it. They didn't want to be the one that had to wait until the bitter end. Until it became the bitter end. And then everybody tried to be you. It's impossible. It's inevitable that it'll fall. Because only the being who did 72 million years has got the architecture to hold it. It'll eventually line up. So that's the story, and that's not all of it. And this is what I was leading up to, and then I'm going to close. Both parties that were being run by these different factions all had to get money from us on specific time counts that all matched up to the Epstein files. They had to get money from us and have us send them money through various channels and ways, by the way, in order to open up channels. But every single one of those transactions that they had any one of us ascended starseeds send into their ring network, ring, matched up to an Epstein log, because all they did was come steal 1,000,000 years worth of energy and 1,000,000 years worth of connections and then put it inside somebody's bag. And whenever we popped up in order to prove that connection, and we made that connection, we had to prove it by sending in a transaction. Those transactions all put up together basically make a Saudi fake Israel. Main point being, it was affecting every human down here. Everything that they were doing to one of us is going to happen to every single being down here before it's done. We were the template. So the Metatrolls and the Barbadalians, like whatever y'all did to one of us, you've got to go through it because you were made by it. It's not our fault. All you had to do was come show up. And this is whenever I'm talking about there's no transact. And the thing is, there's no balance because none of them paid us back. The Divine Feminine was Bitcoin. The Divine Feminine bought into Bitcoin when it was 8,000, knowing that the whole thing was going to go up in value because it's connected into human harvest energy. Now what's Bitcoin? Where's our investment? Who's holding our investment? Oh, is it that secret account that's got $10 billion in it? Do you know that what they've been doing over here to me is contacting me and telling me, oh, you want some money? You want some, mind y'all, I mean, I personally have $200 to my name. To my name. I've had to sell every fucking thing down here. I couldn't have any rent. I couldn't have any real estate. I couldn't even be on my car note. I wasn't here, according to them. Someone else was walking around in my shit. I don't exist as Christy Genzel in the Matrix anymore. You got a Christina Birch that went up as an astronaut. They stole my name. They stole every fucking bit of Gaia's timelines. Connected in with the entire feminine race since the existence of tombs and pyramids. And why they needed our money is because our money was coming from different dimensions, because in order to get them the money, we had to manifest it. So then not only did they take the timelines that were on you, that you didn't even know you had, because they jumped in early. Every sequence they jump in early, years early. Because you're set to a particular program. They're going to come feed you the program as best as they know to make you believe it's the program, but they were always early. And then not only that, then all the transmutation that it took to get the $5,000 or $3,000 to send to Turkey, for instance, in order to bind the 7 churches, never was balanced. So you just took a whole bunch of energy from the cosmos. You took all the money from the feminine race. You blew the feminine race out of the planet, because then you wanted us to give you oxygen, give you love, give you plants, give you grass, make everything, but then you want us in a hypered state of exhaustion, trauma, and defeat. How the fuck are we supposed to make anything? Well, we did. We learned how the divine feminine, we know how to turn evil into something else. They don't. So not only, so it's like literally we were their washing machine, is what I'm trying to tell you. This is why the United States is a washing ton. This was why it was washing. The United States was built like a washing machine to everyone else's karma and money, all based off of stealing from your future self. Make that make sense. So all those timelines have been cut. And those corporations that are linked in with Disney and Pixar and whatever the fuck, Bob, like all that's been cut from the feminine in every way, because it has to be balanced cosmically, because it's why you have an artificial world. And until our feminine race is given resources in order to get healing out to people, in order to teach people how to do all of this and actually be responsible with it, then I don't know what's going to happen. Tower-based root of reality is falling. No, there isn't one being, and there's not a group down here that can create unless you're the ascended. And if you're the ascended, you've got $200. So how do you change that? You're about to find out. We're working on it right now.